10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another episode of India on Cricket 8, our first IPL edition of this season. I'm Nikesh Ragani, your host, as always, alongside Mega Sinha. And we brought you the IPL preview, of course, last week. Lots of anticipation about this tournament. And Mega, it has kicked off with a bang. We're 8 matches in, and we've seen some extraordinary action so far, haven't we?
And I'd just focus on the action that we got to see yesterday. 523 runs being scored, and we are not talking about a double-header day. It just had 2 innings and absolute carnage from both the sides. That obviously serving as a highlights, but otherwise as well, exhilarating action through the course of the week. Some really interesting stories emerging out of it. New captains, veterans performing well, and then some youngsters stepping up. So really, so much to talk about from just the first week of the IPL.
Of course, and look, it all kicked off last week, and it was a matchup between last season's champions, of course, Chennai Super Kings up against Royal Challengers Bangalore, and it was pretty comfortable in the end for CSK, wasn't it? Not led by MS Dhoni this season, of course, who we know has stepped down from the captaincy. Ruturaj Gaikwad is leading the side. I suppose on paper we can say that at least. How have you seen things so far as Chennai is concerned? Because MS Dhoni is very much still the pala, he's still the boss, he's the leader. He's got so much respect from his teammates, from the support staff, from the management, and most importantly, from the fans. It's just Dhoni mania continues for another season.
Indeed, for yet another season, because I recall 2019 onwards, there'd be this question to him whether he'd be making a comeback the next season. And that question continued, and that question continues. Yet, what also continues is the madness, the craze for Dhoni. And we saw that, of course, in the finals of last year's IPL, how people would sleep on the railway station and wouldn't able, obviously they struggled because the match extended for literally 3 days, but otherwise as well, just to get a glimpse of Dhoni, they could do anything. And that is on evidence this time as well. Wherever, of course, CSK would be, there would be a sea of yellow greeting them with, and that's, of course, Dhoni effect. Otherwise, as a batter, of course, he has not come out to bat in any of the 2 games, and that has been the scene since 2020. Also, CSK can have that luxury considering how deep they bat. They have all rounders till number 11 position. Deepak Chahar too has helped India win a game that was against Sri Lanka back in 2021. So they have power packed batters, and obviously they've not needed Dhoni's services. But day before yesterday, that catch that he plugged off Vijay Shankar, just reminding everyone how good his reflexes are still. He underwent a knee surgery, yet he looks at his sublime best. And talking about who actually has the reins, Ruturaj Gaikwad, we've seen him when it comes to DRS at times turning towards Dhoni. Of course, wicket keepers also have a say in the DRS, whether they're the skipper or not. But if Dhoni is there as a player for CSK, there would be a camera focusing on him, and Ruturaj Gaikwad as well, when he's not entirely sure about things, would turn towards him, because Dhoni has played a pivotal role in Ruturaj's IPL career for sure, because he made his debut under Dhoni. But what have been your impressions of Dhoni, the leader, not really leading as not really carrying that C mark on the team sheet, but just a leader?
It's kind of a similar feeling, I suppose, for Chennai Super Kings fans as it was for India fans. And look, I'm in India at the moment. I've got my India shirt on. And, you know, this is not one of those ones you get off the street, unfortunately, with the names on the back. But even to this day, you see Dhoni 7 on the back of the shirt. And it's kind of with that pride that people wear that shirt, because Dhoni, not just a player, but the leader, the captain, the World Cup winning captain, the Champions Trophy winning captain, the T20 World Cup winning captain. You know, he's done everything. He took India to #1 Test team in the world as well in his early days of Test captaincy. So he's literally won it all as a leader. And when he gave up the captaincy, first in Test cricket and then carried on playing under the captaincy of, he retired, didn't he, from Test cricket, but then in ODI cricket and T20 cricket, he carried on playing under the captaincy of Virat Kohli for a good few years, up until the 2019 World Cup, of course, and the famous run-out incident against New Zealand in that semi-final. But even in those couple of years before that, he was still seen as the leader in the side. It's almost impossible for MS Dhoni to play in any cricket team in the world and not be seen as a leader of that side. And I know Kohli put his own mark on the side in the way he aggressively sort of went in the face of the opposition and had a much different style to MS Dhoni. But the fact Dhoni was there, all the big decisions that were taken, you could see Kohli speaking to MS Dhoni all the time. He would be involved in team management discussions as well, because he's just got all that experience, particularly in white ball cricket, I would say. Red ball cricket, there were some question marks about his captaincy towards the end, certainly, with some of those heavy series defeats. But in white ball cricket, he is the man and continues to be the man for the Chennai Super Kings. Doesn't matter who you put as captain, doesn't matter who goes out for the toss, he's still the main man in that side, and he is the leader, and he's who everyone looks to for inspiration. And that's going to continue for as long as he carries on playing cricket, whether it's just to the end of this season or beyond. Again, we don't know. But, it's just great to see him out there, and all the drama and the adulation that comes with MS Dhoni just being in the team. And when his face comes up on the big screen, the reaction from the crowd. And it's almost like if this is his last season, it's a farewell tour, because he's going to go touring around India, playing in all these away matches. And it doesn't matter where he goes, he's going to get a fantastic reception. And that's the way it should be. Absolute legend of world cricket. Another man who does get a lot of adulation, not necessarily everywhere he goes in the IPL, but in most places, Virat Kohli, who played in that opening match, in that sort of opening few matches, and made his 21 to start with, and then went on to make that 77, which really sort of showed everybody that he's here, he means business, just like I said in our IPL preview episode, that he is going to score some serious runs, hopefully, in this season's competition, and prove that he is still one of India's top T20 batters ahead of that World Cup. How do you see Kohli's start to the season?
Couple of innings, 21 of 20, and then came the 77. Of course, 21 of 20, we wouldn't be raving about such an innings from Virat Kohli, because more is expected. And the criticism is around the fact that he gets those starts and then is not able to kind of continue in the same momentum after the power play overs. Scoring runs would not be Kohli's problem, barring that one season back in 2022. How he scores them is important. And in the game against PBKS, he scored those 77 runs. They were quick fire, and they laid the foundation. Eventually, that was pounced on by Dinesh Karthik down the order. So, very important runs, and the manner in which he scored them as well, extremely important. And as much as it is important for other players to step up, to consolidate their positions, or to find a ticket, or to be able to earn the ticket to the T20 World Cup. In Virat Kohli's case as well, I think the narrative is not too dissimilar, because not too long back there was this rumor floating that Virat Kohli would not be considered for the T20 World Cup. Wickets are slow and low, and all the rationale being thrown around. But if Virat Kohli scores truckloads of runs and scores them at a quick pace, maintaining the momentum throughout the course of the innings, or even if he doesn't maintain the momentum throughout the innings, what he does best, if he manages to replicate that, that is in the last 5 overs, step up and get to that strike rate of 200. If he manages that, you cannot ignore him as far as the selection is concerned. And once he gets into the squad, and he'd only get into the squad if the Indian management is looking at him as a part of the 11. If that happens, of course, he'd also be a part of the 11. There's another veteran, although, who has announced his retirement after the IPL. He'd not be participating in competitive cricket anymore. Dinesh Karthik, part-time commentator or part-time cricketer, we get to decide now.
Yeah, definitely part-time cricketer these days. Brilliant commentator, and showing once again that he's got those finishing skills, right? It's been, a season which wasn't particularly great. Lots was expected of him last season after what he did in 2022, exactly. And sort of, finishing matches and scoring at a really quick rate. towards the back end of innings, and then had a dip last season. Everyone thought, oh, you might as well stick to the commentary now. And he's come back and he's shown that, hang on a minute, I'm not done just yet. I've got one last hurrah in me. And look, if all these things start clicking for RCB, we know they've got the batting. If they've got the finishing to add to the top order batting as well, plus the bowling, the way it has been in this competition, they look pretty damn strong.
Absolutely. And Anuj Rawat as well. Last season, towards the end, he'd begun showing a glimpses of why in domestic circuit he'd been rated so highly. And this season, he seems to have carried on from where he left off last season. This one innings against PBK is absolutely stellar. That partnership with Dinesh Karthik played a huge role in RCB finishing the game as the winner, collecting 2 points from it. Faf Duplessis as well, some good cameos, and we've seen him. He's been uncannily consistent just because it's a team that also has Virat Kohli. One doesn't talk much about him, be it CSK as a CSK player or as an RCB skipper. He's been consistently scoring runs and scoring them at a decent pace as well. So RCB have all the wherewithal to do well. And last season, they'd like to prove that that was an aberration, considering how consistent they've been before that 4 seasons playoffs. Although the title continues to elude them, but they have the artillery, they have the arsenal to actually make it to the finals and then do the big thing that the women's team did. But then that's too far to look at from now. We're just talking about whether they have it in themselves or not. They have the components, and the components have been clicking. So that's really very important. But what's your thoughts on Anuj Rawat? What are they like? How has he managed to impress you?
Look, he's had a great start to the season, and this is what teams need, don't they? They need their local players to step up, because it's all well and good buying all these mega money signings from abroad during those auctions, but it's being clever with those local signings and getting the balance right. And I think he has come in and he's given them that balance. And yeah, we'll see if it continues for the rest of the season. Sometimes we see these flashes in the pan, don't we? I mean, Manish Pandey all those years ago promised so much, didn't really deliver consistently. There's been one or two others over the years as well. But if he can stay consistent through the season, if he can chip in with these performances, that adds so much more to a side like this. And I think they could go pretty far in this competition if that is the case. So yeah, Anuj Rawat,
It's
great
very
start to the
smartly
season, but
worded.
early days. Sorry.
Very smartly worded. Pretty far,
Yeah,
because there's no definition, clear
yeah.
definition.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
put all your money on a team at this stage of the competition. It's too early to say. We've seen the Mumbai Indians, haven't we? We'll
Yeah.
touch on them in a second as well. Terrible start to this season, but they tend to do this, right? They tend to do this, and yeah, it hasn't really happened in the last couple of seasons. They've kind of just started bad and finished bad, but usually they lose their first game, maybe their first two, maybe even their first three, and then they come out of nowhere, put a run together, get in the playoffs, and then more often than not end up getting to the final. And they've won 5 titles, so who's to argue with the way things have happened for them? In fact, let's move on to the Mumbai Indians, because coming into this competition, that was one of the talking points of the IPL. The captaincy change, the
Yeah.
re-signing of Hardik Pandya, him replacing Rohit as skipper of the side. Lots of Mumbai Indians fans still really, really unhappy with that decision. And of course, if Hardik had won his first 2 matches in charge, he may have silenced a lot of those critics. But the fact they've lost, and the fact they've lost pretty heavily as well, particularly in that match against the Sunrisers, albeit they batted pretty well. It was a great track to bat on, but they made 246 themselves, but still fell well short of the target in the end, 278. What do you make of Hardik's captaincy so far? I mean, the one thing that sticks out to me is, why the hell is Jasprit Bumrah not bowling 2 overs in the power play? That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. In fact, Jasprit Bumrah not bowling in the power play overs, Hardik Pandya bowling in the power play overs, and opening the bowling. So the two together and the sort of starts their opponents have got. For example, in the last game as well, Sunrisers Hyderabad, barring Mayank Agrawal, every other batter got set and then went hammer and tongs. So what if those innings had been nipped in the bud? That's something that Jasprit Bumrah can do. Of course, he's so good that even if he's given a one over spell, he'd make the most out of it. That's how Rohit has used him. He's been using him like that for the last few years. But then it's primarily his overs in the middle overs and in the death. So one in the middle, one in the death, or two in the power play. Even if it's not two in the power play, it's at least one at the start, right, to set the momentum right in favor of Mumbai Indians. But this time around, with Hardik having regained his bowling fitness and wanting to bowl, and teams making the most out of that, there has been a lot of criticism. And like most former cricketers pointed out, it's very strange, it's bizarre to see an Indian player being booed, but in Ahmedabad or Hyderabad, that booing has accompanying him. How long that goes on, and how the team does. So it might not always be linked with how the team does, because maybe people in Ahmedabad were not booing him because uh, Mumbai Indians lost. They were booing him because he was their former captain, and then this trade happened, which is not so usual for such a high-profile player. Similarly, in Hyderabad, they were booing probably because of their loyalties towards Rohit Sharma, the Indian skipper, and in general, Hardik, just because he's so different from others, he manages to attract a lot of criticism. And I've often wondered, there are fan clubs of various Indian players. Hardik somehow has this big hate club as well. That could be down to, of course, this trade agreement. But even before that, Hardik Pandya somehow, just because of the way he carries himself, that might not go too well with other people. But then his job is to deliver on the field. And Hardik Pandya, whenever he's put on that India shirt, has done well, decently well. But somehow there has been a lot of hate as well that he's managed to attract, maybe because of that coffee with Karan episode, where the statements that he made didn't go too well with the public. A lot has happened since then, but what has not changed is Hardik Pandya's ability to attract those criticisms. And I would just use the word hate, because it's not even criticism. When the crowd is booing you, it's not criticism.
Yeah, I mean, he is a bit like what we say in the UK, like Marmite, the spread, which either you love it or you hate it, and there's no in between really. And look, if he delivers on the field, and we know how great he was for the Gujarat Titans, not only as a leader, but as a player in that role, coming in at number 3 or 4 and being the anchor of the innings and being the enforcer with the ball, really just bowling 1 or 2 over spells in most matches. Very rare to see
Hmm.
him bowl a 4 over spell during a T20 match. I know he was coming back from injury then and all that kind of stuff, but he didn't really need to bowl more than 1 or 2 overs and just have that impact in the middle of an innings just to be the enforcer. Um, they need to sort out their plan, really. And look, we say he was great as a leader at the Gujarat Titans, but in IPL franchises, a lot of it is about the the sort of leadership group, isn't it? The head
Yeah.
coach, the analysts, and the captain, and maybe 1 or 2 senior players as well. It's not just the captain. So that's one thing that the Mumbai Indians fans might need to bear in mind as well, that the coaching staff are equally culpable for decisions like that, with Jasprit Bumrah not bowling in the power play and coming into bowl in that match with the Sunrisers already having 100 odd on the board. What can he do at that stage? They're going at like 12, 15 and over, whatever it was. There's not much he can do. Even if he bowls a maiden, then they've still got off to a great start. The damage has been done, so to speak. So yeah, they need to sort out their plan, and they've got it completely wrong so far. And look, on paper, as I say, probably the strongest side all round, but it's not happened for them so far.
Hmm.
And you talk about hate club with Hardik Pandya. One guy who's got almost a universal, forget just in India, universal love club is Rishabh Pant. He's
Yeah.
back. He's played just the one match. He's captained the Delhi Capitals. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an amazing sort of
Hmm.
dream comeback or anything like that, but he batted. He made 18 from 13 in that Delhi Capitals innings of 174 on the second day. They lost to the Punjab Kings, but nobody seemed to care. Rishabh Pant was back. He hit a couple of boundaries. Everyone's happy, right?
Absolutely. And more so since the time he met with that horrific accident and Indian team missed him at the WTC finals. And absence made the heart grow fonder, and it took him time to win that love, because remember, he was also booed for no good reason for the longest time, more so at the start of his career when he was so young, because he made his debut in his late teenage. But Rishabh Pant, since then, has grown from strength to strength as far as the individual is concerned. And even in that innings, so there were glimpses of old Rishabh Pant. Of course, it's not going to be easy, because the damage was deep, and there were multiple surgeries that he underwent. Uh, 18 of 13 deliveries, wasn't too keen on the doubles. He's obviously not rushing into things. He knows it's important for him to take time. But as wicketkeeper, that was the biggest question, because maybe he can bat, but wicket keeping, considering how difficult it is, and you have first-hand experience of that, it wasn't going to be easy. But then he was keen to dive, he was keen to stretch, and then, in fact, even look keen attempting stumping and stumped out Jitesh Sharma. So all in all, good yields for him on the field, and he'd obviously grow in confidence. And for somebody who's played so much of cricket, confidence might be a word that might sound not really apt, but Rishabh Pant himself conceded that he was slightly nervous heading into the game, because he was making a comeback after over a year in competitive cricket, and it was important for him to carry that confidence with him. It is important now from here to actually carry that confidence with him, considering how well he has fared.
It's like in any innings, even if you haven't been out for so long, either you make a comeback from an injury, or it might be the start of a new season, or you just might be new to the crease in a particular innings. There's always, for a batter in particular, and again, this is just talking from experience, getting that first run or that first boundary on the board, that makes you feel so much better, and then everything starts flowing into place. And for him, it would be like, just get that innings out the way, get that match out the way with the wicket keeping as well. Just prove to yourself that you can do it and you belong. And then once that happens, everything else is like muscle memory. It'll just all click back into place. And there's no doubting the talent he's got. And we use the word talent, is more than just talent. He's world class. He's the best keeper batter in the world on his day, certainly in Test cricket. And he's got the capability to be so in white ball cricket as well. So it's just proving to himself that A, his body can do it, and B, that he still remembers how to score runs, which he clearly does. Played a couple of boundaries, as I say, in that innings, and just started to click things slowly back into place. So long season ahead, but hopefully he can remain fit throughout, especially with his wicket keeping. And if we see him in one of these India jerseys pretty soon, we'll all be happy, I think. So that was, I think, one of the most heartwarming moments I've seen in the IPL for a very long time, just seeing him lead out his side onto the field. They've only played one, the Delhi Capitals. They've lost that one match as we record this podcast. But, as I say, long way to go in the season, and lots expected of that side, who, incidentally, opened the batting in that match with David Warner and Mitchell Marsh. No Prithvi Shaw. Are we going to see a bit less of Prithvi Shaw this season, do you think?
And he has been dropped before as well. 2022 season 2. What would it take for him to be considered seriously? Some consistent runs, because we know that he's explosive, we know that he can get you those quick fire starts, but the consistency has been missing. And even if you look at his best seasons, that consistency hasn't really followed him. In fact, if we recall the 2022 season, he started off well, but the form tapered off. And it's more like the bowlers are able to read the adjustments that he's made. He struggled against incoming deliveries, and once that struggle gets properly noted down by the opponent, it just starts overwhelming him, apparently, because there was a phase in 2021 season towards the end when he was just not able to get those runs, not even the starts, because he'd get out in single digit scores. So Prithvi Shaw, with all the talent that he boasts of, with all the excitement that he creates, he just needs to be consistent. And for a lot of cricket fans, it's actually heartbreaking to see how so much talent is going down the drain. He switched, obviously, tried to play some county games, got some runs, created headlines. But even for India, and even in the Indian domestic circuit, created some ripples with some scores here and there. But that consistency and just the faith of the management, whether it's DC management or the Indian team management, that he's serious. He wants to make it count. He wants to make his talent count. I think that faith is the most important thing that's been missing. And that's what has prevented his India selections, because for the Indian team, whenever he's gotten those opportunities, he's done well. So the reason why the Indian team distanced themselves from him was not because he was not scoring runs. Those were disciplinary issues. And with the DC team as well, there might be some element of that. But just how, but it's a shame, like you'd say in the UK, so much talent and not much coming out of it.
When you say so much talent, I don't think there's anybody that I've ever seen more talented growing up. Certainly in my time of seeing the development of a cricketer, obviously Sachin when he first came into the side, it was way before my time, and when he was sort of going into first class cricket and breaking all those records before my time. So when you see somebody like a Prithvi Shaw scoring 549 or whatever it was in school cricket, and then scoring 100 on Test debut and 100, on I think was it Ranji debut as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
or yeah, Ranji debut. He didn't get one in the Irani Trophy debut. I think Tendulkar did that. There was a big comparison between the two. Basically, they were scoring hundreds almost on every debut they made, and there was one or two slight different ones. Just for somebody to come in and just immediately start scoring hundreds at every level that they're being sort of debuting in, basically, is just brilliant, and in Test cricket in particular. And then to taper off so badly, a lot has been said about his attitude and his off the field, demeanor and things like that. I think he just needs some good people around him, because at the moment his international career is going down the pan. His IPL career could head the same way if he's not very careful. So he's not indispensable. He's not reached that level yet. And sometimes young cricketers, when they get millions of pounds or dollars, their attitude can change. And you've got to have that good support network around you just to keep you grounded. And he probably needs to, maybe, I don't know who his friends are and who his circle is, but perhaps just introduce one or two people into that who can keep him grounded. Maybe spend more time with Ricky Ponting, his head coach, or people like that who are firm disciplinarians, really, leaders, and have had brilliant international careers. Just use them as your mentor, and spend a bit more time with them. Talk to them a little bit more about how you conduct yourself off the field and how you live your life off the cricket field, and then that will ultimately help you on the field, just keeping that better mind space. So it's a shame to see. Um, but we'll see if he comes back into the side later on in the competition. But when he's firing, he and
Hmm.
David Warner are a treat to watch. So I hope we do see that at some stage this season. Warner, of course, still churning out the runs across formats. Really, I know he's sort of slowly started to retire. He's done with Test cricket. He's done with ODI cricket. T20 cricket, he still plays. Will he be available for the World Cup? Yes, but then beyond that, we don't know if he's going to retire from all forms, or what the situation is. So it could be his last hurrah as well. He's the old school. One of the new school that I think is obviously been the player from overseas so far in this competition, Heinrich Klaassen. I mean, what a beast, absolute beast of a player he is, and a massive reason why SRH posted that world record 277 yesterday, as we speak today on this podcast, against the Mumbai Indians. I mean, it was just beast-like stuff, wasn't it?
And that has continued from the previous season, because last season as well, he was Sunrisers Hyderabad's highest run getter, scored those runs at that strike rate that's absolutely mind boggling, around 170. And this season as well, he did get off to a decent start. And I use the word decent because the other batters, for example, Abhishek Sharma, Travis Head, got those 63, 62 runs off merely 22, 23 deliveries. But in Clarkson's case, once he got set, that was when the carnage actually unfolded, scoring those big shots, how powerful and strong he is, and he absolutely dominates. You can try any type of bowling against him. He's got great numbers, be it fast bowling, be it spinners. He doesn't show respect for anyone. And just to imagine the potential that he has and how much he's been tapping into it and what that can hold for Sunrisers Hyderabad. They lost their first game. In the second game, the sort of momentum that he provided them with, ensuring that the innings finished off on a high. If he continues in the same vein, it is going to be very difficult for the opponents to stop him. And more so because now SRH also have Travis Head. They also have Abhishek Sharma, who's come back in full flow. They've always had Abhishek Sharma, but he's looked in good touch in that innings more so. And Pat Cummins, there were a lot of questions around him just because of the amount of money that was splurged on him. 20 crores, that's huge for anyone. And here we are talking about a fast bowler who might not always be available, and there could be injury issues and all of that. But he's a World Cup winning captain and a World Test Championship winning captain. And yesterday as well, when things were tough, there were obviously people criticizing him on social media because things didn't start too well for Sunrise Hyderabad in the second innings. But eventually, all's well that ends well as far as the previous game is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to look at that match and see Jasprit Bumrah's figures, Pat
Yeah.
Cummins' figures, and that tells you everything you need to know about how they're just a class apart from
Yeah.
everyone else on show yesterday. Okay, they were going at 9-0 for both of them, but in the context of a game like that, that is outstanding. So yeah, both of them proving their worth once again. And a quick word on Abhishek Sharma as well: 7 sixes for him in that 63 from 23. 7 sixes, 3 4s. When you look at Klaasen, 7 sixes and 4 4s, there wasn't much in it in terms of the boundary hitting. Sharma's innings, of course, a lot less time, 23 balls for his 63. Klaasen was out there a little bit longer, 34 balls for his 80. So there was a little bit more running between the wickets as well for him. But just explosive all the way down, really. Aiden Markram chipped in and struck at only 150, which in the context of the game was a bit rubbish. And Mayank Agarwal is going to look at this and think, I got 11 off 13 on that kind of track against that kind of bowling. What was I doing? So a few regrets maybe for some of those guys not cashing in, but ultimately what an effort it was. And look, the Mumbai Indians in reply, they'll be encouraged, albeit on a good track, like we said, but all their batters got off to good starts. Hardik Pandya, probably the least explosive of them, 24 from 20, but you look at Rohit, 3 6s and a 4 in that 26 from 12. Ishan Kishan will feel confident as well with his 34 off 13. And then Tilak Varma just churns out the runs for the Mumbai Indians now. He's one of their key batters in that lineup, 64 from 34, 6 6s for him as well. I mean, it was raining sixes, wasn't it, in Hyderabad? And it was, I suppose, a treat for any neutral watching
Yeah.
that match.
Absolutely. In fact, Mayank Agrawal would regret it more because of how poor his returns have been over the last couple of years. Was Punjab Kings captain in the 2022 edition, didn't score a lot of runs, was struggling to unleash his drives because he was being curtailed. And then his struggles continued through the course of the season, tried sacrificing his opening position in favor of Bairstow. That too didn't work out well. And then Sunrisers Hyderabad snapped him up because they didn't have a lot of experience in the capped Indian player department. But then it didn't work out for Mayank Agrawal as Sunrise Hyderabad opener either. And this season as well, two matches, of course, not much to write home about. Yesterday was a big opportunity because everyone else scored, but Mayank Agrawal struggled. Maybe in hindsight, of course, he'd realize that he wouldn't have anticipated that 523 runs would be scored on the day. But otherwise, Abhishek Sharma, he's been around for Sunrisers Hyderabad for a while now. Initially was with Delhi Capitals and then switched to Sunrise Hyderabad. Has played some really important innings for them and has been tried in various positions because initially when he came in as an all-rounder. His left arm spin would be utilized as well, and he'd bat in the middle order. And from there on, he was tried as an opener in the previous game, batted at the number 3 position because, of course, Sunrise Hyderabad now have Travis Head to open as well. So plenty of options in opening for them. But at the number 3 position as well, he showed that it doesn't matter to him which position he bats in. he is going to score those important runs for his team. He'd want to be more consistent to obviously aim for higher things. But otherwise, Abhishek Sharma has been a pretty tidy performer for Sunrise Hyderabad. Was brought in as an impact player, so the team didn't look at utilizing his bowling much, or we'd wait to see how that shapes up. But otherwise, for Sunrisers Hyderabad, considering that they lost their first game, that performance was very, very important from the point of view of the confidence as well. Because if you don't get that momentum early on, it becomes very difficult to stage a comeback.
Yeah, apologies. I
And
think I just dropped off there. But very eloquently made point there, Mega, I'm sure. I caught most of what you were saying. But look, ultimately, we've had a banging start to the IPL. 8 matches in as we
yeah,
speak to you now, and plenty more brilliant action to come in the coming days and weeks. And we look forward to watching a lot of that. I'm in Mumbai at the moment, so going to catch a little bit more action over the next couple of days, and I head back to the UK. That's all we've got time for on the podcast this week. We'll be back with you in a few days' time just to talk through the comings and goings over the next few days of action in the competition. So do stay with us. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube feed, to our Facebook page, to our podcasts as well, wherever you're listening to us from, on Apple, Spotify, wherever it might be. And follow on social media as well. You can find Cricket8, or you can find myself and Mega as well on Insta, X, whatever it might be as well. So we look forward to speaking to you soon. Mega, I think I'm going to head off to Juhu Beach and get some vada pav. Might see Rohit Sharma there while I'm at it. Maybe
why
not.
do I feel
But thanks for listening. Sorry?
why do I feel envious? I shouldn't. No, that's not right.
Well, listen, Juhu Beach it's a nice area. You get some good street food there. You're welcome to join me if you can hop on a flight, get here in an hour or so. But if not, then I'll speak to you next week, and we'll speak to you all once again with another update on the IPL. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.